I guess welcome to Michigan for the people that haven't been here before. I am up in the northern part of Michigan. If we can, I guess we can see that. That's kind of small print down here, but that's Detroit down here. I live up in the northern part of Michigan. It's a resort area where everybody comes to play, and I get to live here. And great place to live, and we love it here. We're gonna work on four cuts, and the bowl is a good format to understand these. The push and the pull cut have bevel support, and the scrape and the shear scrape have a different completely rule, a line across there between the two separate kinds of turning. Bevel supported cut and a scraping and shear scraping has a 90-degree rule, and we'll cover those. So the push cut is the workhorse, is the thing we do most of the time, and we're going to use that to do our roughing out and finishing and shaping and everything. We do a lot of things with the push cut. Whoop, wrong one. Our bowl now, our bowl blank is running the grain. Which way is the grain going? The first question we have to ask when we walk up to the lathe. I'm going to put the tree on so that the grain is running perpendicular to the bed. And it's always easier to go in the side of the tree than it is to go in the end of the tree. So I'm going to make my pass going across the tool rest so that we're going into the side grain fibers of the tree. This direction into the side grain, not this direction into the end grain. All right, so I'm going to put my tool rest parallel to the bed here so I can go across and take those side grain fibers. All right, so I've got the speed of the lathe up nicely. Ooh, I'm going to get wet. So I'm going to put my gouge on the tool rest, anchor down. I've got the bevel support following in the line I'm going to travel. So the handle is on an angle here. The flute is pointing in a direction I'm going to travel, that direction, and it's on a 45-degree twist. And that's going to give me efficiency of a nice clean cut. So let's go back over to this. So just for fun here, with all of these square corners, it doesn't get any harder than that, right? I'm just going to use my fingertips here just to start. No big deal. All the forces of the cut are absorbed by the lathe and the tool rest. So I don't have to work hard. And this is why I don't need the bandsaw. Let's go back to the overhead again. All right. So with a bowl gouge on a fast spinning piece of wood like this, I'm also going to wear a glove because the shavings will get on the top of my hand. I can use an underhand grip and do this, and it's not going to bother anything. But as I start to get more and more aggressive, sorry, the shavings are hitting the face shield. That's a loud, pretty ugly noise. As I get more and more aggressive, the shaving can get bigger because everything is easy. And then I'm going to use an overhand grip, and I can take bigger shavings. Okay. I see I slowed my pace down a little bit. It gives me a nice clean cut. It's left behind because I want to take a good look at this wood and make some decisions on my design. So we're going to take some of this, make a nice big shavings. I'm making shavings and not sawdust. All right. So now everything we've done so far is a push cut. Now we've got a mess on that back side of that bowl. We've done a push cut so far. We roughed it out and we've gotten all the waste wood out of the way, and now we're going to go back, skip down to a scraping cut. And every time I had a push cut, I had bevel support on it. Even when there was air spaces, the bevel was lined up. And if you look at this, the side of this this blank now, it's really nice and clean because I had a bevel supported slicing cut happening with the push cut. Even in the roughing out stages, I'm not tearing anything out. There's no torn out grain. Now we're going to skip to the scraping cut. The scraping cut has a 90-degree rule. Whenever we scrape, we have to scrape at less than 90 degrees. And this is a regular scraper that we would use, or the scraper that we might use on a boring bar system. And if that's hitting the wood at less than 90 degrees, the wood's going to come down and scrape and we'll be good, right? If I get past 90 degrees, it's not going to scrape anymore. It's going to dig in and get a catch. So whenever we're scraping, we have to scrape at less than 90 degrees. All right, and I'm going to scrape on the bottom of this bowl to clean up all of those tool marks that I made from my push cut. If I'm doing a push cut correctly, I'll have tool marks because of the using the tip of the tool only. I'm not using the wing with the push cut. All right, so when we're going to do a scraping cut, I'm going to bring the top edge up close to the wood, and I'm going to cut with the bottom edge. I'm going to roll that flute over. Now here's where my parabolic flute comes in. If I had a U-shaped flute like Doug Thompson has some of his that are V&Us, the U-shape wouldn't work for this. I can't shear, scrape, or scrape with a U-shaped tool. I need a parabolic flute is more friendly for this. That bottom angle here is less than 90 degrees. As long as the top edge is close, I can never get a catch. So I have in my hand right here, where'd my tool gouge go? I have in my hand right here a guaranteed no catch scraper. So that's what I'm going to use. Let's go back to camera number 1. And so I'm going to close that flute over and cut with the bottom edge and have the top edge close. What I don't want to do is have it open like this. If it's open like this, then that bottom edge now is going to go right into the wood and get an ugly catch. So now with that flute closed, I can use that entire wing. I got the broad brush of that whole 3/4 of an inch area there that I can use to clean up those tool marks with. Can't see it very well from there, but I do have, see the tool marks in there? Because of the push cut, each time I stop, I have a little tool mark in there. All right, so I want to get this over here so you can see that. I'm going to close the flute now and scrape with the bottom. And I just go back and forth. And now the scraping cut is not a hog and off cut. I can't do a whole lot of work with this. I'm just refining the line, just taking the tool marks out. I'll go back and forth, back and forth. When we clean this surface up and we clean this surface up, that's going to be the rim of our bowl. So I'm going to leave that alone for a while until I start to undercut it and work with that. Now we're back to our push cut. Push cut had the bevel lined up parallel to the tool rest, and I'm just going to make another line across here. I'm hogging off a pretty good shoulder there. I'm maybe making a 1/4, 3/8 inch. Okay, I'm going to go in and we're going to stop short. Stop short. Stop short. So now, how long did that take us to get rid of all of that waste wood? We're just going right into the side of the tree, making easy, large shaving cuts. It's no big deal. All right. So now we've made a waste wood area here so that my bowl can finish itself underneath here without worrying about making a funnel. When we're outside of the bowl again, in order to have supported cuts, we have to have a cut that's going to go downhill to the fibers, not uphill. So we don't want to go this way and tear it up. We want to go this way so it's supported as we're making cuts, right? So we need to go from the bottom out. Now, if I'm going from the bottom out to the rim, how can I get my handle over here to get my bevel support? I can't. The headstock's in my way. So we have to use a pull cut. So we're going to change down to use a pull cut. Now the pull cut, right? The pull cut has a bevel support. And the pull cut's going to go downhill to the grain with the same kind of efficiency that the push cut is. But now we're going to use the side of the tool instead of the tip. Okay, when we're doing a push cut, our bevel support's right up here at the tip where the pencil line is, right? And we're going to follow that bevel and make a cut. All right, we can't do that here because the head's stuck in the way. So I'm going to now switch. My bevel support now is going to be over on the side of the tool. So I'm going to have my handle low. I'm going to have the bevel support on the side. I'm going to roll my wrist like this and make a cut happen, and then I'm going to go out the correct way to the grain. So let's look at it in real speed. There's my bevel support here. Nothing's going to happen. If I hit my bevel on that, the heel of my bevel is hitting underneath, right? I'm going to roll my wrist over and just get that little whisk of a shaving. Now that means that bevel's lined up. Let's go hit these little corners. Bevel first, roll my wrist, pull my hand forward. Bevel first, roll my wrist, pull my hand forward. Bevel first, roll my wrist, pull my hand forward. All right. This is an important cut that most people don't do very well, because what did it take me? How long did it take me to do that? I was at maybe 5, 6, 7 cuts, I don't know, but it took me 30 seconds, a minute maybe, to true up that outside. So we don't use this cut for very long, and so we don't have time to practice it. So a lot of people aren't very good at it and don't take the time to understand it. I think you can see the arrow even if it's not on focus. The wood's coming down this way. Now I've got my handle lowered way, way down. The handle, the tip of my handle is down by my knee, and the bevel support is behind, and I roll my wrist over and I make that cut happen. Bevel support from behind, roll my wrist, and you see where that shaving is coming off right at the tip, and that shaving now is slicing on a 45-degree angle. All right, so where's my arrow? There's my arrow. The slicing action is happening in that direction with the cut happening this way. So now that slicing action is going to leave me a very, very clean cut. If you look at this, there's no torn out grain. Wish we had a better picture. It's not focusing right, but it's trying. No torn out grain here because I'm going the right way. All right. We're going to do one more cut here quickly. We're going to shift down to the shear scrape. Shear scrape again has a 90-degree rule. And when we're on the outside of the bowl, we need to go this direction with our slicing action to have supported fibers. And now we're going to do a scrape, but we're going to add shear. We're going to scrape on a steep slope, on a shear angle. And so I'm going to, instead of just scraping with my handle up, I'm going to scrape with my handle down, and it's going to slice the fibers cleanly. And now we started off with really big hogging off cuts that were 3/8 half-inch wide, and we used the pull cut, and the pull cut makes smaller shavings. And now we're going to go to shear scrape, and we're going to go to very little tiny angel hair to clean up those last little tool marks and refine that surface. So now I'm going to, well, one of the things I'm going to do now, I'm going to go over to my tool rack and I'm going to pick up a new tool, because this tool is toast. It's gone through all this dirt and bark and all this wood. This is dull. I'm going to grab a brand new sharp tool. And I'm going to close the flute. Let's see if we can get a close-up of this. All right. So now there was my pull cut was like this. All right. I'm going to stop the pull cut or push cut. I'm going to close the flute, and I'm going to lower my handle. You can't really see it in the camera that well, but I'm going to lower my handle. And now we're going to make little tiny angel hair shavings. I'm going to try to save some of them here for us. It's so wet they're not showing up very well, but you take a look at these little tiny angel hair shavings that we're going to get here, right? And that allows us to clean up that surface, handle down, slicing with a shear scraping cut. So I can clean this. My goal with shear scraping is I want to clean up the surface so I don't have to sand it. Well, sand very little. I want to start sanding with 320 grit. And it's not very difficult to do. Now on here we got to go back up the other way. So I'm going the opposite direction with my handle down again. Here. And we clean up. There's a little bump right at the apex of that arc. So now I'd spend some considerable time cleaning up this surface, getting this perfect, so I can refine the line. I can get the arc of the shape perfect, no flat spots, have a nice pleasing arc, and there's where the shape situation comes into hand, where there's a very, very subtle difference between a sweet line and one that just is kind of nice bowl, but I can't really tell what's wrong with it, but it doesn't really have a perfect line to it. All right, so we've got all the tool marks out of here now. Everything is clean, and the bowl is a good format to understand these. The push and the pull cut have bevel support, and the scrape and the shear scrape have a different completely rule, a line across there between the two separate kinds of turning. Bevel supported cut and a scraping and shear scraping has a 90-degree rule. If you like the kind of teaching I do and the details that I get into, come back and see me again. Do me a favor, if you will, and talk about this on your Facebook page or to your club members. Put it in your newsletter that this stuff is available for a real reasonable price, and even the vendor showcase, even free events that we do, and point them in our direction. Promote it on your social media, if you will, and pass the good word that we're doing the job up here, and we'll see you in a few weeks.